Hey, good evening, everybody. It's John Wayne Mullins, and I am Mr. New Dad. And we are talking about some different kind of topics tonight. I just want to give an update. If you don't know who I am, again, my name is John Wayne Mullins, and I created Mr. New Dad originally as a source for men, for dads, to come and learn and talk about things that, frankly, you just don't know where to turn to. When I was preparing for my son to be born, I was in that season and I was looking for all sorts of materials and books and resources. And I was asking my friends, and unfortunately, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find anything. Um, and so I created this channel to really start having this discussion about dads, about different kind of topics that we as dads face. And I know the importance of masterminds, of community, and that's what really I've created. I've also created the Mr. New Dad Mastermind Group, which is currently open enrollment right now. I'll be starting it this month, and it's where I'm leading 6 to 8 guys, 6 to 8 dads through a 3 month mastermind group. And so, if you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to either message me or make a mention in the comments. And so, tonight we are talking about managing your expectations as a new dad. It's going to be a little bit different of a topic, but earlier today I was talking to my wife and I was just talking about what we're going to be talking about and what are the expectations most men or women have about pregnancy, around being a dad, and are they realistic, and how do you manage um, those those expectations, and what's realistic versus what culture says, what marketing says about dads, babies, families, and a dad's role. Here recently, I was talking to a dad, and he's preparing for this season. He's preparing for his child to be born, and he went to his OB and was asking about, what is my role in the delivery room, and he was told, oh, you really don't have a role. And I was like, that's so far from the truth, because I'm thinking you're the advocate for your family. You're the advocate for your wife, for your unborn, or for your son or daughter. You're the biggest cheerleader for your wife, to help her through that um, through that delivery. But more importantly, you're helping those decisions be made and talk to her throughout the entire season. So you have a very important role. But it just kind of made me realize is what does doctors, or what do culture say about dads, and what is their role in the delivery room, in a child's life. And so I want to change that. And so we're going to be talking about, we came up with one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We came up with 8 different things that we're going to briefly touch on. And I'll promise I'll try and keep this under 20, 25 minutes. But a few of these topics we actually discussed at length in the mastermind group. And um, so I'll just go ahead and get started. So, like I said, when it comes to your role as dad, we're just going to start in labor and delivery. When mom is about to have the birth, no one but you will advocate for your child. That's one thing that I learned through my experience as a dad. Is you advocate for your wife, you advocate for yourself, you advocate for your family, you advocate for your plan. My mom she's been a nurse. Um, she's been a nurse, a labor and delivery nurse, for 50 years this year. 50 years. So if you see her, Kathy Mullins, congratulate her. But she's also a doula, and she's an OB. She's a a nurse midwife. But prior to us even having my son Evan, she sent me all sorts of materials and books and pamphlets on some things I wasn't quite ready for, but I appreciate it now, because it made me read things that I wasn't aware of. So when Evan came, I was ready. And so the biggest thing I learned through all of that prep time is no one will advocate for your plan for your child but you. So take the time, an hour, 1 hour a week, to spend with your wife, or read through things that you don't think you may need, but you really will, and you'll be glad that you do. So, labor and delivery. Do you know what that means? Do you know what your plan is? Do you know what that looks like? Um, what is your role in the living room? Do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what to really expect? Some dads don't. Some dads can't handle that. Don't want to see their wives in that amount of pain or in that, and so they can't deal with it, and they remove themselves, and that's fine. I'm not here to judge. Um, but do you have a plan? Do you have a birth plan? That's one thing that my mom has instilled in me is, do you have a plan? Because one, it helps you advocate for those decisions and know what decisions that you and your wife and your child want to make for the baby. But then it also helps you to be so ready for that conversation that you're gonna have with that team of doctors and nurses. So make a plan. And there are so many apps out there. We went through one called Mama Natural, and she provided a free plan, and you like click on it, what it is and what you want, whether what drugs you want administered, if any, if it's a natural vaginal birth versus C-section, what you want. And so by doing that, again, dads, it made me have a conversation with my wife about everything that I needed to plan for. Are you prepared for different outcomes? Have you and your wife talked through those possible outcomes? Because the last place that you want to make a decision about epidural or C-section or anything is when you're facing it. Have those discussions. Again, my mom was a lifesaver, and she sent me a lot of that information. And there's tons of information out there available online, YouTube, different places, different master classes that you can get plugged into. If you want to look into the one we did, again, it was called Mama Natural, and we went through that. It was like 8 different episodes. It was mainly focused towards mom, but there were 2 sections that were really dedicated for dad, and it was well worth it. Next, recovery. This is going to be very broad paintbrush. It's you know your wife best. You know what she's capable of. You're going to be paying attention to her needs, how her body is recovering, and again, you have to help her during that season. You have to lead her, especially if you don't have a lot of family around. We don't. We're in Virginia. Most of our parents my parents are in Ohio, and her parents are in the Midwest, and so it was just us. Thankfully, we had some help, and they came. But what is your recovery going to be, especially whether you have a vaginal birth or a C-section? If you have a C-section, know, especially as dad, that your responsibilities about doubled, because mom can't do anything. She can't pick up the baby. She can't breastfeed. She can't do anything. Well, she can breastfeed, but she can't pick up the baby because she's healing. She can't really move. She can't go upstairs. And so, again, your role as dad pretty much doubled because, mom can't do anything, and she needs you more than you think. How will your life react to it, depending on was it a healthy birth? Was there complications? Do you know where and how you need to get help, especially in that recovery phase? I know our first 2 weeks, I signed up for a meal train through my work and her work, and it was great because every night of the week we had dinner made, and that's a free app. It's called Meal Train. Sign up for it because lots of times your family and friends want to help. They want to provide for you, but you have some boundaries up about, hey, we're not accepting guests right now. We're really trying to allow healing to be had and rest to be had and catch up on somewhat sleep that you think you're going to get. But the point is, how will you react to it? So plan for those things in advance. Feeding. Oh man, this was a big one. There is so much information in here. Again, broad paintbrush, but Breastfeeding versus formula. Do you know the difference? Do you know the difference? Learn them. Learn the difference. Um, do you know what each means? Breastfeeding, just be prepared, especially for those younger babies, that they're going to be eating every 90 minutes, especially, those first few weeks. They're going to be constantly on that because they're learning how to eat, they're learning what to do. And as dad, what is your role in that? Are you helping mom? Are you preparing her meals? That's one thing that I took on role, because I realized that my wife was feeding for two now. Well, she was recovering, she was healing, she was resting, she needed food, and I wanted to make sure that she was getting the right amount of food and the right kinds of food that will help her feed our son. And so, again, there's an app, there's many resources and master classes that you can learn about specific foods that can help mom breastfeed better. And often dads are always like, "Oh, what is my role? What can I do?" Prepare food, make food, or sign up for a meal train, or do what you need to do. But that was a one big thing for me. Formula is much different. You're going to be. We did not formula feed, but I just know that it's a lot different expectations, different amounts. So again, learn what that means. So be prepared for it. Sleep. Is there such a thing as having sleep with a newborn? I don't think so. Um, One thing, again, my wife reminded me is, they said, just because there was this something she kept on hearing, and we hear it too, especially with newborns, is, oh, how are they sleeping? They don't. Most babies don't sleep through the night. There is no such thing as sleeping through the night. You can't sleep train a new baby, because it's hungry, it's growing. Babies don't stop eating overnight, especially the new ones. But what does that look like for you as dad? I really wasn't prepared for that. I've been in sleep deprivation before, where I worked a long, long time, and I saw that. But this is a different kind of sleep deprivation, because you're tired, your wife's tired, you got a crying baby, you're trying to feed, you're trying to do all these things, take care of housework, monitor guests or whatnot, and it's just a lot. And your hormones are all over the place. If you are sleeping, where are you sleeping? Baby, this is another thing that came up in our mastermind, is where's the baby sleeping? Have you had that conversation? Again, that's different for everybody, but where is it? Is it gonna sleep in the bed with you? Are you gonna co-sleep? Are you gonna have a bassinet? Are you gonna have these things? How is that gonna impact you? Is it gonna be in another room? Are you gonna put it in a crib? Again, have that conversation, because one thing that I learned, and it's, again, if you're on this, you're listening, I would love some feedback from some dads who've gone through this. So feel free to chime in. But sleep, especially the new ones, what's that look like for you? Where are you sleeping? How are you sleeping? What are you doing? We were talking about this in those first few weeks. It's rough. I'm not going to lie, it's rough. But as our son has grown, he's 13 months now. Sleep has been constantly evolving, constantly. He leaps and bounds. He's teething right now, so he's not really sleeping a whole lot. He's growing, so that impacts sleep. But where is he going to sleep, and what are you trying to what habits around sleep are you trying to establish, and why? And then the same thing with bonds. Having that bond between mom and baby, and you and baby. And one of the things, when we were talking about it, it was having that discussion around, is the baby in another room? So that means that you have to get up, walk down the hall, or do you want the crib in the room, or do you want a bassinet? Again, all these options. And it's a conversation that you need to be having, because it's going to change, sure, but just be prepared for it. because these are things that, as I kind of reflect about this season of new dadhood, and some of these conversations that we've been having in the mastermind, I just wanted to get in here and share what I'm learning and what I'm continuing to learn, and why it's so important to have these conversations. And if you're not, learning from other men, learning from other dads who kind of walked through that season already. So yeah, sleep is a big one. Medical, again, broad paintbrush. There is so much here, but there were the main thing that we were talking about, that kind of when we were coming up with these topics for tonight, was choosing a doctor. How do you choose a doctor? And even some of my friends now who have reached out to me and say, "Hey, how do you choose a doctor?" I know we're still under the TRICARE plan, and some people think, "Oh, they just assign you one." False. You can actually choose your doctor, and I think that's so important to think about, is what, the doctor that you choose. Most people, they either want the old man doctor, or they want the holistic young or holistic naturopath doctor. Jake, thanks, man. Appreciate you listening in. A few steps. I'll go ahead and share this. A few steps as possible to get the baby for the first few weeks, because the baby will be very needy. Oh my gosh, yes. Don't change it, especially in those first few weeks. Don't change the sleeping location. Just keep things as few steps as possible to get the baby, sleeping in those first few weeks. We co-slept and had a bassinet for all 7 kids. Yes, I'm a big advocate. I think that's a great, having a bassinet in the room. That way the baby's right there. If mom needs to feed, she or he is right there. And co-sleeping, we co-sleep, and he's still 13 months old. In the very beginning, I was against it, because I thought I was going to roll over on him. It's a common belief that most dads have, that they're going to cry, they're going to wake me up, or I'm going to roll over on them. Did you ever go through that? And it's so far from the truth. Again, if you do the research and learn about these things, you'll begin to think, you begin to prove yourself wrong or right, about some of the common misheld beliefs that dads often have around co-sleeping, or about any habit. Jake Edling, he's an awesome dude. He's getting ready to launch a book about the first 90 days for dads, and he has this framework. So I know the book's not out yet, but if you're not following him, follow him, Jake Edling. So that's my little plug-in for Jake. But medical, choosing a doctor. One thing that I was adamant about is I want a doctor who listens to me. I want a doctor who shares resources, who shares minutes and they're like checked out. We want a doctor who at least respects our values, but most importantly, listens to you and is willing to have those conversations or explain why they're choosing to do this or that, or whatever. But it's all about values. And if they don't respect your values, or even let alone your time or questions, it's usually a telltale sign that they're just not the doctor for you. Vaccines, circumcision, that's a big one. Circumcision, I'm just going to put a plug in for this. It's something that I actually did a lot of research on. I'm a Christian, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and often I wanted my son to look like me, and so that's a common held belief, again, that most dads have. By investing about an hour of research and then talking about that with other dads, I actually talked to several dads about this. Talked to my wife about this. It is a personal decision, but do your research on it, because if you're just doing it because society says it's the thing to do, you're making a permanent decision for your son that, and this is my opinion, it's an unnecessary procedure. But again, it's a personal decision, and I will say just do your research and have the conversation, because I was I was all for it, and then I did the research, and I actually decided not to. Again, do your research and don't be. I mean, be willing to talk about it. Really, be willing to talk about it and have those conversations. Three more, and I'm keeping this under 25 minutes, so we're moving right along. Um, I'm going to get personal for a second. Sex, unmet circumstances, and we're talking about those managing expectations as a dad. There's this myth that moms are ready at 6 weeks. Dads out there, if you think that's true, it's not. I mean, and I will say this: it's so far from the truth. Um, uh, Oftentimes, not only is mom's hormones all over the place and she's healing, she's recovering, but so are yours. And again, it's it's important conversation to have with other dads or with your wife, to talk about those expectations, because I remember, my brother told me some things, and I was like, yeah, I didn't, I wasn't ready for it. But now thinking back, it's managing those expectations and having that conversation. Dude, guys, dads, there are so many conversations that you need to be having. But the one thing that I want to stress upon you is don't be afraid to have those conversations, because those often lead to limiting beliefs that you hold about yourself, about dads, about your role as dad, about children, about all these things. Is be intentional about having these conversations, because you are now responsible for a little person, a life who's going to mimic you, who's going to watch you, and you need to be prepared for that. You need to know these things, and it's okay if you don't know, but but that doesn't mean that you should avoid those conversations that are just going to help you become the best dad, and the type of dad that you want to be for your son or daughter. So that's that. Family boundaries. Again, I mentioned something about meal train and having help. Meal train's awesome. Having help. Do you have help? What is your plan post baby, post birth? Are you going to have people come and go? Are you going to have neighbors bring all the food, all the guests, or are you going to close up the house and it's just about you, your wife, and your baby? Um, yes, she can still get pregnant while breastfeeding, Jake. As a father of seven, I'm sure you, you know that. Yes. um, let's go back to Jake. Thanks for the shout out. I love your content that you are sharing real time journey through becoming a dad. So important. It is, and I appreciate that. It's something that I have learned since becoming a dad, is that this doesn't happen. But the moment it does, the moment you start talking about these things, and these are the things I'm learning in this mastermind, is guys want to talk about this. And I believe that nobody wants to be a bad dad. But the difference between a bad dad and a great dad is how intentional he is about bettering himself to become that dad. And so that means making those investments in himself, doing these things that may stretch you outside your comfort zone, reading books about things that you've never read about, and having those conversations. Yeah, big. Family boundaries. Who are you getting help from? What boundaries do you need, or what will you need? Um, Boundaries is a big topic that we talk about in the mastermind group, because there are many boundaries that you need to learn how to set up, not only for yourself, for your marriage, for your family, but also with your work. Um, that's a whole another topic. But there are many boundaries that you need to start to be thinking about, so you can be fully present, and really help your wife and help your family, and take care of this little baby, especially in those first 90 days. And having those boundaries established is so important. Last one is work. Learning to say no and have to set new boundaries. Again, it's something that we talk about a lot, is learning how to say no. there's been a tendency to always say yes. And one thing that I've asked is, what are you saying yes to that you're saying no to? Because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Are you saying yes to the right things? And it's practice. It's learning that whenever you say yes to something, it's just not in the moment, but you are committing yourself to something, work, where you are need to be present. And is that right? That's not for me to to say yes or no, but it's is something for you to think about, is where am I saying yes to, where I maybe I need to delegate that project out, or maybe I need to punt that to another office or another team. Where do you need to learn how to say no to things so you can be at home, you know, or you can work from home, or you can take care of your wife, you take care of your son or daughter. These are all important things to be talking about and thinking about, because I've talked to so many dads who wish they had something like this, and they learn this lesson of boundaries the hard way, because they're 15 years later and they don't have the type of relationship that they wish they had with their son or daughter, because they always said yes to other other priorities or other work projects. So it's big, guys. All right, so I'm right at 26:39, so I'm a minute 39 past. So I thank you for the comments. Thanks, Jake. Um, Thanks for everyone for listening. Again, I know I went over a little bit, but I certainly appreciate you guys and women out there who were listening in. If there is a topic you'd like me to either expand upon or go into a little deeper, either out of these top eight, tell me. Again, either send me a message directly or comment below, and I'd be happy to discuss them, or even have you live on and we can discuss live. And so again, thanks for being here. It's Mr. New Dad. If there's anything I can do for you, or if you know any dads right now who are either about to become a dad, or they are that brand new dad, you know, 0 to 5, send them my way, because one, I'm looking for those a few more dads to fill this mastermind, and if that's you, I'd really like to get you in. So have a great night. Be intentional. Take care, everybody. Thanks.